Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast, my first season. Very excited for today's guest. He is the first GO, or ex-GO, that was working for Club Med in the 1970s, 1978 to be exact. His first season was in Porto Petro, which is in Majorca, Spain, and he was a Sailing G.O. He is a Canadian, now living in Louisiana. I want to get into that, ask him how that happened. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, everyone, please help me welcome Tim Purcell. Hey, Tim, how are you doing?
Oh, reasonably well for an old fart, you know.
Thanks for agreeing to come on the podcast and tell your story. Really appreciate it. So, where in Canada are you from, and how the heck did you get to Louisiana? If we start there, because I'm always curious how that happens.
Well, I was born in Montreal area, and my father was in the Royal Canadian Air Force, and we moved around a lot. We went to Germany for a couple of years, Calgary, lived outside of Ottawa, Moncton, New Brunswick, and then when my father died in '63, came back to Montreal, where my mother was from.
Okay, so yeah, I'm from Montreal, but I never made it out. So how did you get out?
They left a hole, they left an opening, and no.
I'm sensing you married an American is what I'm sensing. No?
No.
No? Okay.
No, actually, the economy was bad. I'd been looking for a job for a year with no success. And I saw an ad in the Montreal paper. Club Med was looking for people. So I sent a resume or whatever and entered, got an interview. And went in and did the interview.
Wait, so was this in 1978 that you saw an ad?
Yeah.
Okay, this is really strange because when I applied in 1994, you had to know someone who worked for Club Med. It was so secretive back then, so I'm very surprised that there was an actual ad in the paper. All right, so, okay, but you said you were a Sailing G.O., correct?
Yes.
So where did you learn to sail?
The Grenadines.
In the Grenadines?
Yeah,
okay.
Well,
there's a story here too. Okay, you still haven't told me how you got to Louisiana, but I'll swing back to that. But how did you wind up in the Grenadines?
Well, the deal of it was I'd been interested in boats all my life and played around with motorboats and everything, and I worked at the Royal St. Lawrence Yacht Club for a little while. And they had all kinds of sailboats there. And I thought, yeah, it'd be really nice to learn how to sail. And then at one point I said, I want to go on a vacation. I want to go somewhere exotic. And there was a place in the Grenadines that said, if you know a little bit about sailing, you can come down here and get on a big boat, a 40-footer or whatever, and sharpen up your skills. So I said, I've never been sailing, but I devoured a book on sailing, pretty well memorized it. They said, yeah, it wouldn't be any problem. So I went down and spent 10 days sailing in the Grenadines with a local guy hired by the company and a couple of guys from Chicago and some woman from Boston. And we spent the time, each of us had a day or two as being the captain of the boat and deciding where we were going to go and everything. And just sailing and applying what we knew about sailing to that particular boat. When it was all over, they gave me a certificate saying, "Oh, you can come back anytime and charter one of our boats." I said, "Okay, fine." And so a little later, I went back to the Virgin Islands and chartered one of their boats by myself. Well, it was a person that I knew that came along, and then. I didn't do any more sailing until I went to the interview.
Okay, yeah, so let's talk about that. So when you saw this ad in the paper, now, did you send a resume? Like, was the office in New York at the time, the head office?
No, it was in Montreal. It was in Montreal. They did the interviews in Montreal. I went to someplace downtown, I can't remember where, and did an interview with, I think his name was Greg Russell.
Okay.
He had a brother also.
Now, did you know anything about Club Med? Like, had you heard of them? before?
I just heard it was, a vacation resort type thing, and that was about it.
Okay, so my question is, so how did it happen? Because around my time, 94, 96, to leave the what you call the North American zone, you had to basically get promoted to a chief of service. So how did a first season get sent to Spain? How does that happen? Or were you just lucky?
The deal of it was is I went through the interview, waited a while, and then they called and said, "Yeah, all right, you're in. We'll let you know." And then I waited around. I got rid of all the stuff I had in the house I was renting, and was all set to go, and like nothing was happening. So I started asking, "Hey, what's the deal here?" And finally they said, "Oh, okay, we need a Sailing G.O in Porto Petro." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, fine. That all right, no problem. I'll go to Porto Petro." And they sent.
Did you tell them you spoke Spanish? Is that why they sent you there?
No.
Okay. All right.
There were very few Spanish people there. The European zone was basically French people.
Okay. Now you spoke French though, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, did you think this was normal at the time? Like someone from Montreal would get sent to a Club Med in Europe? Was that like for you?
I knew nothing about the politics or the mechanics or whatever.
Okay.
Placing GOs anywhere. I just knew that they had places all around the world, and that sounded good to me. So, and I needed a job, so I pared everything down to 3 suitcases, and off I went.
Now, is Porto Petro one of those like summer villages?
It's a summer village. It's only open like April till November or so.
Are you able to describe it for people who've never seen it? Is it a beautiful location? Is there mountains around it?
Oh yeah, it's great. It's Porto Petro is a little village. It's like right next to the club. It's a little fishing village built on a little bay. The road at one point runs along the little like seawall there. It's built on there's some hills there and everything, and then outside the fishing port there's a bunch of cliffs and everything like that. But it's beautiful. It's integrated well into the landscape. They have horseback riding there, and it's a very small beach, and a deep little bay that comes in. It's just it was very a charming place. The sailing shack was right down on the water. There was no beach there at all. There was the obvious thing for a sailor. There was a bar right next door where you could run up a tab and that sort of thing. So it was very nice. It was a beautiful little place.
Now, when you had your interview, did the person conducting the interview tell you about the hours and how many days a week you'd have to work? Did that come up at all? Like, did you know it was 7 days a week?
I don't remember that. I don't.
But you remember working 7 days a week when you got there, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. That But what else is there to do?
That's true. Rest, relaxation. I don't know. But I guess you had time to see the sights too and go on excursions if they had any excursions. I'm guessing you saw some of the place, right? I mean,
there was some guy that I guess was sort of a Club Med hanger-on or whatever. He had a Land Rover or something like that. We went on a drive once and went to some little restaurant where I had squab for the first time.
Oh boy!
And it was, but aside from that, cruising around Majorca, going to see where Georges Sand lived and stuff like that. No, never got to see any of that. Went on a couple of sailing picnics, to neighboring bays and things, but no, just spent all the time in the village working. You know, it was one of those. Sailing Shack was closed on arrival and departure day, so you could make sure people got out of bed and got their bags to the assembly point and showed people where their rooms were and did the usual, oh, your bag is missing, let's make a search for it, and things like that, answering questions and all that sort of stuff. Because it was in the European zone, the majority of guests were European, a lot of French, a lot of Germans, lots of people from the Netherlands, some Italian people, this, that, and the other thing. But there were just about no North Americans there for holiday.
Okay. Now, when you got there in that first week or two, did you experience any kind of culture shock at all? Like, were you all wide-eyed or?
Well, I was obviously trying to figure out the lay of the land and what happened, and there's always Réunion G.O and things like that because at that point there was no little printed schedules about where you had to be and what you had to do and this, that, the other thing. It all came from your responsable de service, who would tell you, okay, go down all those stairs, drag that boat up, and we'll do an entree de restaurant here with a sailboat in front of the restaurant, and if you got anything pirate, dress up in that, and those kind of things. And it was all figuring out, oh, okay, this is what we do. We do this, we do that. So yeah, it wasn't any big deal. Figuring out how to do my laundry and all that sort of stuff. It was there was to show you how there was like one phone in the village. That was it. There were, I don't believe there were any TVs. The World Cup was on, and they had to borrow a TV from somewhere so they could bring it in and show the World Cup to folks that wanted to see it. So, it was very primitive, I'd say, undeveloped kind of thing. There was no air conditioning in the rooms, that sort of stuff.
Okay. Well, all right. This is pretty interesting. So did they stick you in the shows right away? Did you know you were going to have to dance, or did you manage to avoid rehearsals and shows?
No, I think I was in some shows, but they're basically you if you're not in the show, you got to be there anyway for when the show is over to time for the crazy signs, time to get people up and dancing. That was, de rigueur, what you had to do. That was it. So, but yeah, I think I was in a couple of shows. We put on the French Revolution, which was a rock opera at the time, and that was a revolution, obviously a big deal, something that had to be planned well, and I saw all that happening, but I don't recall the regisseur and those people coming after me saying, "Oh, we need someone to do this or do that or whatever." As far as the shows were concerned, I saw a lot of them. I saw them all, but I didn't. I don't recall being on stage a whole lot.
Were you the only Canadian G.O there that season? I'm guessing you must have been.
I believe so, but you asked me in the preamble to this about a funny story.
Yes.
And
yes.
I knew how to speak French. Obviously, I got made fun of because my Quebecois accent, but
that's right. Yeah.
I didn't know any of the terms for a sailboat or, anything technical about sailing in French. And I said, "Hey, is there a sheet of paper that tells, no, nothing like that. We don't use that here. We just teach people how to sail." So there just happened to be an American guy there, Bill Burkholder, who had already been in the club. I think he was going to University of Texas or something, and this was a summer job for him. It just so happened that he's the one that taught me the French terms for, all the rigging on a sailboat and the points of sail and this, that, and the other thing. It was an American guy that taught me that in French.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's pretty impressive.
So anyway, and just like I say, it was a daily thing. You go down to the sailing shack, and there's people there, and they say, U4, U5, or whatever. You go out with Tim here, and he's going to show you how to sail. And that's pretty much what I did. And obviously, the people from the Netherlands that spoke English, and other people German people that spoke English, because those are two countries that have a large percentage of the population that speak English. I got a lot of those. So, if there were the French people, I took them out and taught them in French.
Well, let's get back to, you mentioned the show French Revolution. So July 14th rolls around. It's Bastille Day. I'm sure there was big festivities planned. So did you know what Bastille Day was and what you were doing?
I knew about the Bastille and everything like that. I'm not sure I was cognizant of the fact that it was such a huge holiday, but they certainly put on the dog, as they say, and there was around the restaurant and the offices and everything like that. There was a big sort of courtyard there, and they set up this huge buffet, and they were doing goats on spits and stuff like that. Of course, it was all decorated in the bleu, blanc, rouge, and stuff like that. So yeah, it was a big deal. It was I don't know. Did you do any July 4th things in the American zone?
Yeah, but I just asked about Bastille Day because my first season was in Turks and Caicos, and I didn't know anything about Bastille Day, and I didn't know what was going on. No one would tell me. They just said, do this, do that, throw that flower bomb over there, help build that castle on the beach, and then we're going to storm it. Okay, change into this. So to me, it was kind of eye-opening because I didn't know anything about Bastille Day. We only were taught Canadian history. So I was just curious of everyone's Bastille Day memories, how they compare to mine.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, it was it was something. And that was when I discovered it was such a big deal for the French.
Yeah. Were there any employees or managers or chief of villages, whatever, chief of service, that stood out to you that first season and made a good impression on you?
Yeah, well, the chef de village, Patrick Becchery, he was a really nice guy. He was, really easygoing.
Was he French or Italian?
He was, I believe, what they called, and I'm not sure how derogatory this term was, pied noir. He was kind of North African, I believe. Or
Patrick Becchieri, is that his name?
Yeah.
Okay. So was he like one of those crazy chiefs that was everywhere, and or was he laid back?
He'd been on the French junior volleyball team before he blew up an ankle, and so with him, volleyball games on the beach were a big deal. He was always into that, but he was always around the village, glad handing the people, and just being a chef de village, running things, whatever it is they do to make the people happy. He was a pretty good guy. The chef de sport was a guy named Gégé, who was a really good-looking guy with a well-sculpted body and everything, and it appeared that was about all he knew. He wasn't a little mocked by the G.O team for just the way he presented himself and that kind of thing. But he was basically inoffensive. So I don't recall any bagarre, as they would say in French, going on about him. Animateur was a funny little guy that taught the Greek sourtaki dancing and, did all the normal animateur things. Other than that, I don't, the GOs were the GOs. They were European and African. And I believe one of the guys from the Ivory Coast unfortunately died of congenital heart failure or something like that during the season. Other than that, it was, I suppose, an eye opener for me that you could have that much fun working. You could be busting your butt hauling things around and setting up impossible scenery and this, that, and the other thing. But, still have a good time doing it.
Were you getting paid in local currency or US dollars? I'm just trying to figure out how they were paying you. And did you wind up?
I don't remember. I think I was probably getting paid in pesetas or whatever it was. Obviously when you say getting paid, you're overstating the fact.
Yeah, yeah. Must have been well, you probably don't recall what you were getting.
It was
monthly,
around
right?
It was around $400 a month.
Okay. Now did you wind up saving any money at the end of this summer season, or did you come home with a little bit?
Yeah, I think I had some. I'm not sure. When it was time to go back, as the season was winding down, and they started announcing, who's going where for the next season.
Yeah,
Patrick was going to a snow village, and seeing as how I wasn't a ski instructor, and they already had what they call the ski man who took care of the skis and the bindings and the rental equipment and this, that, and the other thing. They already had one. There wasn't any place for me, but he said, after that, I'm going to do the opening of a new club in the Bahamas, and I want you there with me. I said, okay, fine, not a problem. So at the end of the season, the maîtresse de maison and the what did they call her, the économe boutique or whatever she was, anyway, the Dutch girl that was the maîtresse de maison, she had driven there. So they said, hey, you want to come back with us? We'll go in the car and we'll drive up. Sure, why not? We went in the car, got on the ferry, and got back to the mainland and drove across Europe, visited a couple of XGOs on the way, and then I got to Paris, and one of the guys that had come au pair and got on as a sailing instructor, he was living there in his parents' place, and I got to hang out with him, and he had a little Citroën 2CV. And we went to St. Malo, I believe it was, to see the start of transatlantic race. Yeah, I had a little adventure driving around France in the Deux Chevaux. So that was pretty good. And, because I didn't have to be anywhere in another village, I kind of hung out, and I went to Amsterdam and visited some GMs that I knew there, had a wonderful time.
Okay, so you chose to travel instead of doing a like a second season then, right? Right away.
Yeah, well, like I said, they didn't really have any place for me. I didn't at that point know to ask, well, if I can't go to the ski village, is there something else I can do until the opening of Eleuthera? I was
okay, hold up. So you're saying that you opened Eleuthera?
Yes.
Wow, that must have been something, no? Because I've never been to Eleuthera, but I've been to the other two in the Bahamas. But everyone I know who's worked at Eleuthera always raves about it. It's the most beautiful, and it was their most favorite one. So what was it like opening Eleuthera?
Well, finally I got home from my gallivanting in Europe. I waited around. Finally, it was like, hang on, what's going on here? There should be people there, and I should be in Eleuthera now. So I started obviously bombarding the offices. What's going on here? And the next thing I know is that, yeah, we forgot about you, but yeah, come on down. I got down there later than I should have. I could have been down there earlier, putting together the sailing shack and this, that, and the other thing. I finally got there, and I put, I was the first one to use any of the scuba gear that was there, and I used it to scout out the floor of the bay there to find places to put moorings for boats and stuff like that.
Or treasure, right? There must have been a lot of treasure back then.
No.
Sorry, Tim. What year was Eleuthera opened?
1979.
Oh wow! Okay.
It was the summer of '79. It was back March, April when I got there. And it wasn't open yet. They were still putting the papasan chairs around the bar, and doing things in the animation to get ready, waiting for their Dugommier to come from France with all the costumes and whatnot. And of course the set decorator was going crazy, trying to build sets for the shows that were going to be put on and stuff like that. So it was pretty manic.
Even though you arrived later, you were still there before the first guests arrived?
Yes, I was.
Okay, interesting. And you stayed there, what I'm guessing, 6 months to a year?
I was there 8 months altogether.
8 months. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess that pink sand was pink as ever, huh? When you first got there.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's a weird village because the village is on one side of the island, and the marina is on the other side of the island. So they had an old school bus taking people back and forth from the village to the marina. So every morning when I had to go to work, I had to get up and get on the bus and go to the other side to teach sailing. And you were asking about funny stories again. I got up one morning and rushed down to the bus because I was running late, and I wore the small bathing suits.
Okay.
So I'm on the bus and we're driving along, and I look down and, oh, you don't have your bathing suit on, you have your underwear on. So I got to the sailing shack, and it just so happened I had a spare bathing suit there, and I was able to put it on, but nobody ever said anything, nobody ever mentioned anything, but that was
hey, it was a 70s, right? Hey. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
As long as he had something on. So was opening Eleuthera, which is, I guess, a big thing, is opening a village. Was that like the highlight of your Club Med career, opening that resort?
No, I don't think so. Just because it was a new village. It was nice. It was, everything was unused and stuff like that. And it was a lovely place. So yeah, it was really nice. I mean, I can't think of any villages I went to that weren't nice.
Where did you go after Eleuthera?
Next was Cancun.
Cancun, wow. Okay. That also must have just recently opened too, I'm guessing, if you were at...
For a few years, 3 or 4 maybe, I'm not sure.
But it was the first or one of the only resorts on that strip, right? That whole strip. Because if I look at old photos...
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah. The old photos just show the club and not much else.
Yeah, that was it. Over by Cancun, by the town, there was a bunch of hotels over there, but there was nothing on the beach in between. Whereas now they're all cheek by jowl there. Yeah, no, it was a nice one. That's where I met Andrea Livingston.
Okay.
She was a windsurf GO there.
And, she was a windsurf GO at that time. She later became a chief of village, but okay. So when you met her, she was windsurf.
But
GO.
she also later, won a medal in the demonstration event at Los Angeles at the Olympics in windsurfing.
That's right. And were you also a Sailing G.O. in Cancun?
Yeah, I was sailing all of my career.
How many years was your career? 3 or 4?
8 seasons.
8 seasons. Okay. And after Cancun, are you able to name them off?
Yeah, that was Chateau Royal, New Caledonia, where I became a chef de voile. Okay, yeah, because if they didn't promote you and you got to New Caledonia, I was gonna like raise a hissy fit at you because what you're describing doesn't happen today. Like you can't get to New Caledonia and yes, you become a chief of service. So I'm sure there's a lot of ex-GOs listening are like, what? They sent him to Europe his first season, then he went to New Caledonia. Wow. You probably still have jet lag from that trip, I'm guessing. Yeah, not to mention the fact they lost my luggage.
Oh God! So then you had to buy all your clothes in a very expensive boutique, right?
No, I finally got the luggage back. It was.
Oh, you did? Okay. Oh, yeah. Good.
But I had bathing suits in my carry-on bag, so I was set.
Yeah, bathing suits and a toothbrush. That's all you need, right?
Yeah, especially when you're in sailing. I mean, what else do you need?
That's your uniform.
Yeah, a pario at night to put over the bathing suit, and you're golden.
And after New Caledonia, where did you go?
I'm not sure of the exact
It doesn't have to be in order.
Chronology.
Yeah.
But there was Île Maurice, La Pointe aux Canadiens.
Oh, wow.
There was, let me see, there was another stint in Eleuthera, and there was Playa Blanca.
Wow. What year was Playa Blanca? Early 80s, I'm guessing?
Yeah, early 80s. My last season was Paradise Island.
Oh, okay. Another one in the Bahamas.
Yeah. I've spent a lot of time in the Bahamas.
All right. So judging, okay. So I've noted all the resorts you've been. So was there one that you would say was there anyone that was magical to you? Was it the first one because of they sent you to Europe, or do you not use the word magical? Was there a special one, or are they all special in a different way for you? Was there one that stood out?
All special in a different way. Although Porto Petro, like I said, it was a quaint little thing. It was right there beside the town. It was very picturesque. Obviously, Eleuthera is a lovely island. I kind of like Mauritius because I'd have to go into town every once in a while, visit some kind of little ship chandlery type thing to get things for sailing. It was right on a lovely bay, and then in the town they had the market, which was just kind of what you would picture an open air market would be, with all these stalls and people selling their stuff, and it was very interesting. That's where I learned to carve a pineapple from a street vendor. It was kind of neat, and of course the dodo bird was long since extinct, but the Mauritian government gave us two huge tortoises, like Galapagos tortoises.
Really?
Huge things. Yeah, they built a little enclosure with volcanic stone and kept them in there, and the animateur used to dress up in something funny, and he'd go in there and he'd feed them, and they had a you think, tortoise is big deal, not very smart, but they had some sort of connection, that kind of thing. It was, and then the scenery, it was basically nothing but wall-to-wall cane fields, and there were all of these walls built out of volcanic stone that they'd taken out of the fields to make them to do their cultivation, but it was just a ton of cane fields. But that was pretty neat. Of course, New Caledonia, it was used to be a UTA hotel or something like that, the Chateau Royal, and so it was a high rise, had elevators, for crying out loud, that kind of thing. So it was kind of neat, and of course it was right there on the bay, and there was restaurants around, and there was a casino there. I got kicked out of the casino because I was wearing gray flannels and a blue blazer and a nice shirt and everything, but I had on my clogs with no socks, and they wouldn't let me in because I didn't have socks on.
Okay. So they bounced you for no socks, huh? Okay.
Yeah. Just one of those things.
Whew, man.
You could barely see my feet. Pants came down.
Even though they're going to fleece you of all your money, they said no, you can't enter because you're not wearing socks. Okay.
Exactly.
Which they probably would have taken from you anyway once they've taken all your money.
Yes, I'm sure.
Wow. All right. Well, Tim, wow, I really want to thank you for coming on and sharing your stories with us today. This has been great.
No problem. Like I said, I'm pretty boring.
Don't sound it to me.
I just had a great time, working for the club. Basically, the reason I quit was they wanted to send me to Mexico again to I think it was Zihuatanejo, but the chef de village had a very bad reputation amongst G.O.s as being one of those that would come along and say, here's your ticket home. So I didn't want to have to deal with that.
So you stopped and then you went back to Montreal?
Yeah, I went back to Montreal, but in the meantime, my sister had moved to Houston. And back in Montreal, I would have had to get a place to stay, some transportation, a job, all this, that, and the other thing. And my sister said, "Oh, come on down here. There's lots of work down here, and you can stay with us for a while." So that's what I did. Went down and started doing carpentry with my at the time brother-in-laws, and just lived in Houston for the next 30 odd years, doing jobs here and there, having my first heart attack, this, that, and the other thing. And then about 11 years ago, once again, needed a job. And I went to northern New York, Corning, work on some helicopters. And then a place here in Lake Charles that I'd applied to before I went up there called and said, "Oh, we need you down here." So I moved to Louisiana, and the rest is history.
So being from Montreal, tell me, do you miss the snow? Here's what you say. Here's where you say. So you say no.
Because even when I was, when I was, we were young adults. We were working and this, that, and the other thing. But we hung out in groups and everything, and say, "Hell, let's go. Let's grab some toboggans and go tobogganing tonight." That kind of thing. And I skied. We rented ski shacks up in the Laurentians and stuff like that. But what I didn't like was galoshes, having to get dressed up and get all full of snow and then get to work and take all that stuff off, and then at the end of the day put it back on while it was wet, and go home, and shoveling out early in the morning so you could actually get to work and stuff like that. Those are the parts that I didn't like.
Okay, yeah, no, I don't blame you there, sir. Well, everyone, that was Tim Purcell. Thanks again for sharing your stories with us, sir, and we'll see you all next week. Bye.